there are a few backfields in the NFL that we want nothing to do with. And they're full of running backs that I'm trying to avoid like a kick to the man junk. Curious as to who they are? Hit that like button, because we're getting into it now. What's going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully you guys are doing well out there. Welcome back to the Draft.com studios, where today we're talking about rushing attacks that suck. Not so much the players that do, but it's some of the players do. But a lot of it is the actual situations that these guys are in. I just want nothing to do with it. There's too many red flags, too many concerns, too many question marks for me to really deal with on a weekly basis as far as my fantasy football team goes here for 2019. Before we get into it, I got 7 teams we're going to talk about briefly, but also want to let you guys know, make sure you head over to our website, thefantasyheadliners.com. A lot of other great information over there. And our draft guide is available for purchase for only $19.99, and it gives you almost 500 pages of fantasy football content to help you dominate here in 2019. So be sure to go check that out. But we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to go talk about a few backfields that we're going to be avoiding altogether in 2019. All right, here we go. Number 1 on the list, and before somebody asks, no, these are in no specific order. It's literally just 7 teams that I picked that I want nothing to do with in 2019. First one being the Buffalo Bills. Now, I'm sure Bills Mafia is going to want to light me up in the comment section, but wait a second. Before you do, it's nothing with the Bills. I think NFL-wise, non-fantasy-wise, I think they're set up pretty good. They got great depth. They got different types of skill positions there. But how many dang running backs does one team need? I mean, the future looks good in Buffalo, right? They got Devin Singletary, TJ Yeldon. Great pieces for the future for them to use and build off of. But they still have LaShawn McCoy and Frank Gore, who may be about 80 years old this year. What happens? What kind of backfield volume do all these running backs get? Nobody knows. I have no idea. Does the coaching staff even know yet? It's possible. I mean, I think as far as, winning NFL games, they're set up right with the depth, but fantasy football-wise, just too much of an absolute headache for me on a week-to-week basis. Now, none of them are really expensive on draft day, but do you really want to roster one and have to worry about it every week? Do I start him? Do I not? Do I want him? Should I trade him? Should I drop him? Just avoid it altogether. Now, unless they trim down on these running backs, maybe if some of them don't end up making the team or they end up trading them off to other teams, whatever that is, if they enter the season with all 4 of these guys in the backfield, I'm avoiding Buffalo altogether. All right, number 2 on the list is going to be the Denver Broncos, and this may surprise a few people here a little bit. I mean, a lot of people like Phillip Lindsay, and so do I. I like Phillip Lindsay. I think he's a great running back, a great story. But how healthy is he? How healthy does he come back this year after the injury that he suffered in 2018? Does all that time off here in the offseason give Royce Freeman the time to not only improve, but get more snaps with the first team? And it's possible that we see a little bit more of a split this year. And if Freeman improves and Lindsay comes in as not 100%, the start of the season could see way more of a timeshare than a lot of people are even expecting. It's a new coaching staff there. They have no loyalty to Phillip Lindsay. They don't expect to have the same thing as they had last year. They brought in Joe Flacco. And they have a lot of pass-catching weapons with Cortland Sutton, Emmanuel Sanders, Deshaun Hamilton, newly drafted Noah Fant. They could be looking to air it out more here in 2019. Once again, it's not a talent thing, but until we know that Phillip Lindsay is 100% or they make a clear determination of who is the running back 1, this could be a timeshare and a total headache in 2019. All right, number 3 may also be a slight shock to some people. It's the Oakland Raiders, and a lot of people, I can hear them out there right now. Jake, they drafted Josh Jacobs. Why do you hate the Oakland Raiders backfield? Well, I'm just not a Josh Jacobs truther. He hasn't proven enough to me yet. He hasn't had that huge workflow yet. Does he hold up all season? I'm not sold on it quite yet. I mean, he hasn't even signed yet. There's a chance that he enters as a training camp holdout. And that is going to be absolutely horrible for him going into the season, trying to not only just pick up the playbook, but get used to the speed in the NFL. They did re-sign Doug Martin. Jalen Richard is still there, so they'll both be in the mix somewhat. They made it a priority here in the offseason to bring in multiple pass-catching weapons. Antonio Brown, Tyrell Williams. They drafted Hunter Renfrow. And I already mentioned that Jacobs has never really had a full workload, and the Raiders haven't had a consistent running game since Jesus played fantasy football. Now, I think Jacobs is just too pricey for being as unproven as he is. Richard and Doug Martin can probably get just enough work to really take away the value from everybody. And in my opinion, for the amount of draft capital that you have to put into Josh Jacobs, and he's not even signed yet, I'm sure he may be signed by the time your fantasy football drafts come around. But is he too far behind the 8 ball by that point? It's possible. It's expensive. I want nothing to do with it. I'm passing on the Raiders' backfield here in 2019. All right, my number 4 team on the list of how to piss off an entire fan base is the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is kind of similar to what we talked about with the Buffalo Bills, right? There's just so many running backs. I mean, they had Corey Clement. They had Wendell, don't tell me I have Smallwood. They had Josh Adams. Then they go out and they get Jordan Howard. And then they draft Miles Sanders. I mean, what in the sweet baby Jesus is going on in Philadelphia's backfield? I mean, they're literally competing with the Buffalo Bills. Are they trying to corner the market on all things running back? What is going on? Now, don't get me wrong. I love Miles Sanders. He was my number 1 running back in the draft this year. I got to see him firsthand at the Combine, and the kid is very impressive. But who gets the touches in this run game? Do they decide to just send Jordan Howard out there week 1 and beat him up until Sanders can become acclimated with the offense and the speed of the NFL? Do Clement, Smallwood, and Adams just slowly fade away into nothing? What is going to happen with this backfield? We know that there's already going to be some type of a committee approach, but until this run game has more clarity, I'm just going to pass on all things Philadelphia Eagles running backs for right now. Number 5, the Washington Redskins. And this one may surprise a few people out there, but it's another one of those backfields that has a really bright future. I mean, they have Darius Geis still, and they drafted Bryce Love, who's not somebody we need to talk about really so much this year, but he will be involved in the future. But what about this year? I mean, Adrian Peterson's still there. He may never retire. He may just, play till he passes out. Does Chris Thompson return to the third down role that he once dominated in this offense? Is Darius Geis 100%? Maybe he's not, and that's why they brought back AP. And maybe that's why they drafted Bryce Love. Maybe they're not sold that Darius Geis is going to be able to return to what he was before. They may not have a lot of weeks there either where they have a lot of leads, where they can just run out the clock. They may be forced to throw more and more. Geis is still pretty pricey. He has a 6th round ADP, and you have AP out there saying he wants to run for 2,000 yards, which no, is not going to happen, but he will still be involved. He can still goal line carries. It could be more of a 50-50 split. What happened with Chris Thompson? I don't see any of that happening here with this timeshare, but it's going to be a mess in 2019, and until there's more clarity, until we have our clear-cut number 1 running back in Washington, I'm not interested. Number 6 on the list, the Detroit Lions. Another one that may have you guys scratching your head just a little bit, but what's going to happen with Kerryon Johnson? I know a lot of people are excited about Kerryon Johnson, but do we even know if they're going to give him a full workload yet? I mean, Matt Patricia has already talked about a committee-type approach, and they signed C.J. Anderson. That just screams partial timeshare to me. Yes, it may be like a 60-40 split, but it's not like it's going to be a full workload for Kerryon Johnson. Now, most importantly, though, I don't believe that the Lions will be working with many leads. I mean, the Lions haven't been working with leads since... Have they ever? I mean, the Lions continually have to throw the ball. That's why Matthew Stafford is there, is to throw the football. They haven't had a successful running game since like Barry Sanders for the most part. Now, I know they brought in new offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell. He loves to run the football. But just because he loves to run the football doesn't mean that they're going to go to a one running back approach. With Kerryon Johnson all the way up into the 3rd round of ADPs for your fantasy football drafts, in my opinion, for the potential timeshare that could be there, because it is so unknown, I'm just going to pass on Kerryon Johnson altogether. There's too many other options in that same area that I would rather take a chance on instead of somebody that we kind of expect to have a timeshare going into the season. Last but not least, and I'm sure you may be expecting this one, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, do I really need to get into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I've pretty much talked about them a lot on this channel, and if you're relying on Ronald Jones, hashtag say no to Rojo, you got Andre Ellington, who wasn't even in football last year, and you have Peyton Barber, who is historically one of the least efficient running backs of all time. Yeah, pass. No thanks. Hopefully they can get Duke Johnson or somebody else. All right, so those are 7 backfields that I want nothing to do with here in 2019. What do you think? Are you going to be avoiding these backfields also? Maybe there's another team out there that you may be avoiding. I know New England is a very, very popular name on this list. The reason I did not name them is because I still really like James White. So I can't say everybody but James White. So that's why they're not on this list. There were some other teams out there that I was debating upon, but I want to get your feedback. Let me know what you think. What teams are out there that you're just not even going to touch for a running back? No matter what round you're in, where you're sitting, you just want nothing to do with that. Maybe you don't want more gray hair. Maybe you can't afford to have more hair fall out. Whatever it possibly is, there are teams out there that I know a lot of you want nothing to do with. Share it down below in the comment section. Make sure you hit that like button. I greatly appreciate that, and it really helps us out here on YouTube. Go check out our website. The Draft Guide, like I said, is available there. $19.99. Tons of information. Greatly appreciate your support, and we will talk to you guys later. Have a good one.